All right, thank you all for attending the regular meeting of the Reno City Planning Commission. Today's date is Wednesday, July 17th, 6 p.m. We will kick it off with item number 1, Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Velto, please. All right, moving to item number 2, roll call. Michelle, please.
Harris Armstrong,
Here.
Manny Becerra,
Here.
Carrie Romeyer,
Here.
Alex Velto,
Here.
Sylvia Villanueva,
Here.
JD Draculich.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to item number 3, public comment. This item is for either public comment on any action item or for any general public comment.
Members of the public may call into the meeting to provide public comment by using the Zoom link provided on the agenda, specifically https://links.reno.gov/3V5VC95. It should be noted for those in the audience that comments are to be addressed to the Planning Commission as a whole. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the Planning Commission agenda. Please note that the Planning Commission may not take action upon any matter not agendized for possible action on today's agenda. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name, and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you are an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment at this time, please raise your hand. Lastly, while in this room, please be respectful. Warnings will be issued by the presiding officer if there is disruptive behavior, and you will be asked to leave the chambers if the behavior continues. We did receive voicemails and correspondence that were general in nature and not specific to any items on this agenda. These were forwarded to the Planning Commission and have been entered into the record. We did not receive any voicemails, sorry.
All right, any requests to speak forms over there right now?
Nope.
All right. Anybody in the chambers wish to speak on general public comment? Seeing none, we will close item number 3, public comment. Move on to item number 4, public hearings. Any person who has chosen to provide his or her public comment when a public hearing is heard will need to so indicate on the request to speak form provided to the secretary. Alternatively, you may provide your comment when item 3, public comment, is heard at the beginning of this meeting. Looks like we had item 4.1 was pulled. Do we need to address that in any way?
Item 4.1 will be on the August 7th agenda due to a noticing error.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll close item 4.1, move to 4.2, case number LDC 24-00056, Habitat for Humanity.
Okay, good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Jeff Foster, Associate Planner for the record. See, I was listening. I'm bringing you 2 cases tonight, the first of which is LDC 2456, Habitat for Humanity. It's actually the Truckee Meadows Habitat for Humanity, and I'm just going to, for the sake of brevity, refer to it as Habitat moving forward. So the project site is on the north side of Echo Avenue between Mount Charleston and Mount Vita Streets, south of the Reno Stead Airport. It's about 3.03 acres in size. It's currently vacant. It was previously owned by the university, and the 3 structures that were on the parcel have been removed. The request before you is a tentative map to establish a 22-lot single-family detached subdivision. So as we zoom in here a little bit, you can see that there is a single-family residential use to the north, and that's actually Habitat's Mount Charleston subdivision. There's also City of Reno Fire Station number 9 to the north of the project site. To the west is the Sierra Nevada Job Corps Center campus. To the east and to the south, you have vacant land. The key issues are project design and compatibility with surrounding uses. The zoning is multifamily residential, 30 units per acre, and of course, multifamily 30 is primarily intended for multifamily development. However, secondary uses that are allowed include townhomes and single-family residential. The master plan is multifamily neighborhood, and here are a handful of policies that support the proposed project. So in terms of project design, the gross density is about 7.26 units per acre. Of course, with the allowable 30 units per acre under the zoning, the site could theoretically be developed with about 90 units. The project is required to have 22 parking spaces. The project includes approximately 50 parking spaces, which are comprised of the driveway space, one driveway space per unit, and then 28 on-street spaces. All the streets are proposed to be public, and this is similar to Habitat's previously approved Mount Charleston subdivision that I pointed out earlier that's just to the north of the site. In terms of continuing with project design, you have 22 single-family detached homes that are each less than 1,250 square feet with 3 or 4 bedrooms. They are on lots ranging in size from about 3,900 square feet to about 5,400 square feet with an average lot size of about 4,600 square feet. And the proposed elevations appear to meet wall articulation requirements in code, and full compliance with code design requirements will be addressed at the building permit phase. Continuing with project design, there are no common areas. This subdivision, all of the parcel is being divided up into the public streets and within the 22 lots. There are no common areas. Landscaping that is in the right-of-way, as you can see, there's landscaping outside of the lots that's in the right-of-way. That landscaping, along with landscaping in this green area here, which is within, between the public road and the side yard fence and the sidewalk, that landscaping is the responsibility, all of that landscaping is the responsibility of the adjoining owners to maintain, and those are addressed in conditions 6 and 7. I also wanted to point out that there are several sidewalk waiver requests in these areas here. Engineering has tentatively agreed to at least one of the requests, but the formal requests will need to be made down the road and reviewed by engineering at that time. Moving forward to compatibility with surrounding land uses, the project is generally in character with the area, including Habitat's Mount Charleston subdivision, as I've pointed out a few times, as well as extensive single-family detached residences and townhomes to the southeast and to the southwest. You may have noticed those on the vicinity map earlier. Due to the small nature of the project, it's expected to have a minimal traffic impact. All required parking is included on site. Since it is next to residential, we have included condition number 8 for allowable days and hours of construction. And again, because it's in the vicinity of the Reno-Stead Airport, the Reno-Tahoe Airport Authority requested a noise notification to go to each of the buyers and to be maintained in perpetuity, notifying homeowners that they are proximate to the airport, and that's condition number 9. Here are the recommended findings for the tentative map. Staff can make all recommended findings, and here's the recommended motion, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Will we be getting a presentation from the applicant?
Yes, we get a very brief presentation because Jeff did a great job. For the record, Dave Snellgrove, I'm the planning manager with CFA Bowman. Here with me in the audience tonight is Christine Price and also Kim Clark with Truckee Meadows Habitat for Humanity, and Billy Anderson, who is project engineer and project manager with Loomis and Associates. I'd like to just begin before I go into any slides, and Jeff covered a lot of this stuff, so I'll skip through some of them pretty quick. But I do want to thank your staff. We spent a good amount of time with Jeff and with James Pearson working through some things. There were some modifications to the site plan that we worked through some issues with and made some changes kind of midstream in consultation and discussions with the city staff. And I also want to thank the broader staff that reviewed this in other agencies, most specifically the Washoe County School District, Kyle Chisholm and Jennifer Iveson were very helpful. The Safe Routes to School program is one of the things that we had to meet, and also with Lisa Butterfield with RTAA was very helpful in a lot of the conversations we had. anytime you're dealing with affordable housing, it's always very challenging to try and get something. Given that we're at $600,000 median home price, we're trying to be in the 200 to 250 range. So controlling some of those variables was a lot of the discussions that we had with the staff members, not only with Reno, but with the other agencies. And I do want to let everybody know how appreciative I am of the time that they took with us and how we were able to work through some things to hopefully be able to keep the prices, keep the costs down, to keep the prices down for these houses. So with that, Jeff did a great job in covering the location. And then the zoning and master planning, we are a multifamily neighborhood. There is an allowance for single family within the MF30 zoning designation. This one's a little bit different. This shows the RTC Route 7. So this is directly across Mount Charleston. You can see where in the upper right-hand corner of the photo where the subject parcel is. Right across the street with the crosswalk there, there's a bus stop there. So people who don't have as much money on housing may be a little bit shorter on vehicles. There is a bus route very close by which can provide different transportation routes to get into town. Obviously, this will get you to different places within Stead, but also bring you down to city center to get on other routes through the RTC network. Around the site, I'll just kind of cover the top part of this. We're asking for 22 single-family lots to be developed by Truckee Meadows Habitat for Humanity. The target for this is to make these affordable for individuals and families who are at 60% or less of area median income. And that's what I talked about earlier with housing prices so high in the area. We need to get these down as low as we can to make them affordable for people who normally would not be able to get into the housing market and start to build some equity. So that's why it's very important in the work that we did ahead of time with the staff and working through a lot of the issues and questions. Oop, went the wrong way. Jeff mentioned the former uses on the site as former the Job Corps administrative offices. Google Street View actually had some pictures that they took that showed the old boarded up houses. These have all been removed. I got some photos in the next slide. Christine Price has been with Truckee Meadows Habitat for Humanity, has been pursuing this property for some time. She actually knows a lot of the history of kind of what was going on, the derelict nature of these, and kind of the challenge that they presented to the neighborhood before they were entirely removed. And we're now left with pads and then an asphalt area that was the parking lot for the administrative offices on the site. These are pictures of the site. The buildings have been removed. You've still got a private power line on there, and you've got one little concrete structure there in the upper right-hand corner photo. Jeff ran through the site plan. All the houses are proposed to be below 1,250 square feet in size. These are small, modest houses. These are starter houses. These are things that people can get into and hopefully start to build some equity to where they can move up and start to experience some successes in terms of home ownership. In terms of our sidewalks, Jeff mentioned that we have some sidewalk waivers that we've talked to staff about. We'll be submitting waivers on those, but you can see the light blue areas are existing sidewalks. There actually is an existing sidewalk along the frontage of Echo Avenue, but we've got to rebuild that entire sidewalk. About 80% or more of it was damaged, so that's going to have to be replaced anyway. So all the blue in here is proposed new sidewalks. You can see the north to south connection. We've got quite a few that'll go between Christine Price Way and Echo Avenue. And then we've got east-west. This is actually shorter than a typical city block between the two east-west, one on Echo and the one on the south side of Christine Price Way. So we've got plenty of pedestrian access. Just in summarizing the project, we're targeting housing opportunities for lower-income individuals. We've got bus and mass transit route close by. We've got ample pedestrian access. Ties into the existing sidewalk system, which presents walkable opportunities, Desert Heights Elementary School and Sierra Nevada High School. And with the overall project, it'll help clean up the neighborhood, and more specifically this property. With that, we're in agreement with staff's analysis and review and recommendation on the project. We're in agreement with the conditions as presented, and we're available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Now go to the commissioners for disclosures. Commissioner Rohrmeyer, why don't you start us off?
Great. Yeah, Commissioner Rohrmeyer, I read and reviewed the materials, and I'm familiar with the site.
Commissioner Velto.
Commissioner Velto, same disclosures.
Commissioner Becerra, same disclosures.
Commissioner Armstrong, I have the same disclosures.
Commissioner Villanueva, same disclosures.
Commissioner Draculich, same disclosures. All right, we'll now open it up to public comment. I'm not seeing any requests to speak forums. Anybody online, voicemails?
Nope, no voicemails, correspondence, or requests to speak forms.
Okay. Anybody in the chambers wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and kick it to the commissioners for questions of staff or the applicant. Commissioner Villanueva, please.
Thanks. Question for the applicant. Hello.
Yes, for the record, Dave Snellgrove.
So you have the designation allows for 30 single family, or no, wait, I'm sorry, it's the multifamily.
Yeah.
And you guys are building 22 units. And you could potentially build up to 90 units is what
Correct.
I think. So why the decision to only do 22?
The multifamily and Truckee Meadows Habitat for Humanity could speak to it better, but in terms of how they end up building, they'll build 1 to 3 homes per year, and that's kind of in their digestible chunk because they work with volunteer resources, volunteer materials in a lot of cases. Building a bigger apartment unit and putting 90 units on 3 acres would be challenging and be largely challenging due to parking. You'd pretty much either have to go subterranean or the bottom floor would be parking. It could be done, but that's not really in the mix of what Habitat for Humanity does. They try and build single-family individual housing. Be happy to have, if Christine Price has any additional comments on that. Yes, she's nodding her head. If I can
Okay.
you'd indulge me and have Christine come up.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your question. It's pretty easy. We build single-family units for homeownership. Apartments do not fit our model for providing safe and affordable housing for families. So we have always done single families and
Detached, single family detached, yeah.
We've done a duplex, which is still fit in that model because we could title it separately for that. But yeah, that's our goal is to provide home ownership opportunities for families with yards, and whatnot. So that our model of single family, it fits our goals and our mission much better than an apartment complex.
Or duplex or condos or townhomes?
We have done one
Yeah.
duplex, so
Okay.
that is something we have done. But this particular area really lends itself to having that separation and that home ownership
Okay.
and autonomy.
One more question.
Sure.
The sidewalks, what was the issue with the sidewalk? So is it because just being able to fit the single families on there, you needed the space?
It was a cost basis.
Oh, okay.
And a space, but the majority of it was cost. I'm going to turn this back
Sure.
to the expert on that.
I'll add to it in terms of the sidewalk on the north side of Christine Price Way. If we were, I think it was the one that we'd lose 4 lots with that. Yeah, the one that went, and if you can bring the slide back up, I can.
If you go to mine here, I think.
Oh, okay, do you have it on there? It's the one with the blue lines on it.
Well, okay, no, yeah, I don't have that one, so.
On the north side where he's got that first.
The orange?
Orange one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't have a sidewalk on that side. If we add a sidewalk into that right of way, it gets rid of enough width that we can't get those top 4 units anymore. So this is a big issue in terms of trying to get more density on the site, which you were talking about at first. It allows for 90, we're proposing 22. Adding that additional 5 foot for the sidewalk actually takes away from where we can't get the number of lots on there that can help reduce the overall cost of the project to help them meet the $200,000 to $250,000 price range. So what Christine said that, yeah, it was a cost basis issue. It's actually a space basis issue too for us. We have a lot of pedestrian access, both east to west that I showed and also north to south, that not having a sidewalk on one side of the street, given that this is a very light area, there's not going to be that many cars that travel through here. There's other routes, so it's going to be the people primarily living in here, and you might have 6, 7, 8 lots worth of cars that come by it. And think about a small neighborhood area. There aren't that many vehicles driving on the street. So we feel that it's a very safe option.
Okay, and then one more question. The underground, so it said new electric. Do you guys suspect that there's going to have to be new electrical, I think it said electrical lines? And if there are, they're going to have to be underground? Is
Yeah.
that?
That is a code requirement. That's one we can't get away from. All the new electric we have to put underground. There is an existing power line there, and that's going to be completely removed, right, Billy?
Oh,
The
okay.
existing overhead line comes in, and it previously served those administrative office. It's actually a private line. It's not an NV Energy owned line. It was private that went in and just served the old Job Corps offices. That overhead line will be removed, and all the new utilities will be undergrounded per city code.
Okay, great, thanks. That's all.
Commissioner Drackledge, quick question. Impressed with this. So you said it's going to be around $2 to $250 for the purchase price?
That's what they're targeting.
And at $1,250, so we're like $200 a foot?
I think your math's right.
How did you do that? I'm just impressed. I'm just more or less wanting to be educated on
That
that.
I'll have Christine talk about how the magic gets made.
And you don't have to go into length, too in depth, but just curious.
So our program is designed to build with volunteers. So we reduce the majority of the cost that normal builders have because we're using volunteers, donations of both material and skill. And that's basically how we keep that cost down, as well as we'll eat some. I mean, the duplexes we just finished, because of the cost of the extra wood and the price of wood and windows and whatnot, we didn't hit our target on that. And so as an organization, we still made sure that it was affordable for the homeowners. So we ate the overage on that. We're always trying to get donations. The more we can, the better we can do on the houses and the better we can do for the individuals. But either way, even if we exceed that in building costs, I hate to even say that out loud, but we will keep, the homes will be affordable. They will be in that $250 range for those homeowners so that it is affordable for them. And there's zero interest. So that's the other thing that makes it affordable for these groups.
Bravo.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Notably for my fellow commissioners, I've never heard of a house being built for less than $400 a foot recently, so it's massive. Anyway, sorry. I'll give it away to other commissioners. Commissioner Becerra, please.
Sure. Just a question for Jeff. I believe it's probably for you. I was just curious, on June 10th, the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority had requested that a noise-reducing material be incorporated into the building, and then some weeks later, they, I think, retracted that recommendation in favor of information pamphlets. And I was just curious how that aligns with building code or the acceptable standards of staff.
So, and Dave Snellgrove can actually speak to this a little bit more directly in terms of the communication with RTAA that he went through. But effectively, because, I'll say procedurally, because they came forward with an updated letter that they were fine with just the noise notification, that we were willing, of course, to then take that more recent recommendation and apply that as in terms of a condition of approval versus the previous letter that had requested the air conditioning and the building materials. So ultimately, the project still complies with code without the air conditioning and the building material upgrades, if you will. So anyway, but Dave, do you want to?
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that. Could you bring my presentation back up? I do have a slide in my extra slides here that I could go to. Yeah, I had a good conversation with Lissa Butterfield and tried to address this in the initial application materials. Let me go down to the pretty colored maps. There we go. Okay, so you have the airport noise overlay that affects a lot of the area instead. And then over to the right is one of the National Transportation noise contour maps. I had identified on here where the approximate location of the site is, and we're in the 50 to 54.9 decibel reading, just exterior noise level, kind of in the middle of that. So we might be in the 51, 52 range in what they would anticipate noises from the airport. One, the airport's not used that frequently, and with the air races going, it's used less frequently. They do have operations out there, and Melissa cautioned me that they, like when there's a big fire, they will run some air equipment from out of that. And at times it can get noisy. Having been someone that grew up under the flight path of March Air Force Base outside of Riverside, I know what it's like, and I know what a military base especially can have in terms of noise. And my parents didn't believe in the use of air conditioning. We had it, but we didn't use it very frequently. So I know that there are times that it can be uncomfortable, and we have been going through a heat wave here recently, but it's usually pretty short during the year. Getting back to what I said initially, controlling some of those variables and some of those costs helps them get to the 200, 250 range. I would love to be able to say, yeah, we'd love to have all this stuff in here, but quite frankly, the exterior noise levels, the interior noise requirement is at 49 decibels. We're maybe 3 or 4 decibels over at the outside noise level. So I wasn't seeing the nexus of this is definitely required here. The farther you get away from the airport, there's less justification to say, yes, you definitely need to have that. If we were in the red or the pink areas, it'd be a little harder argument to make when we get into the 60 to 69 decibel range. Because we're right on the fringe with the outside noise level, and we just have to get a few decibels lower, the walls and the windows are going to help do that. If somebody does have their windows open in the evening, it's going to be infrequent. This isn't like living around the Reno Tahoe International Airport, where you've got flights at different times of the day and night, and they're pretty regular. This would be sporadic, and yes, there are times that be woken up. I had that with March Air Force Base, and I get it, but there are also ways to manage the coolness in your house and keep it a little bit cooler through the daytime as well. I have my own personal examples of that with my mother-in-law's house that has no air conditioning, and we've stayed there and during 100+ days, and there's ways. We had it where it was max it got up to was 82 during the day. Closing your windows, blinds, there's ceiling fans, there's box fans, there's all sorts of other ways that you can help cool things off. So Jeff told me that this may end up coming up as one of the discussion points. I appreciate the question, and I hope that you understand and appreciate the answer and what we're trying to accomplish.
Great, thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Commissioner Becerra, if I can just follow up from a code perspective. Our code does provide for additional requirements, building requirements for properties within the noise overlay, specifically of the Reno Tahoe International Airport. And just as an example, where we kind of cut the line is at the 65 dBA level in the noise contour, and as Mr. Snellgrove indicated, this is below that. So even if this was near the Reno Tahoe International, for example, we still would not require these supplemental building measures. Okay. So it's not in conflict with our code the way it's written.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Rohrmeyer, didn't want to forget about you. You want to chime in?
No questions here. Thank you.
Okay, great.
I have a question. I didn't understand kind of what was happening. So if I'm understanding correctly, the airport noise, in order to get the changes, we eliminated air conditioning? Did I understand that correctly? I'm confused.
The RTAA initially went to, and they issued a letter that identified that we'd need to have an acoustic analysis done, which costs money. And quite frankly, I didn't feel it was necessary because we're at an exterior noise level by their own mapping that shows us just marginally above to the interior levels. Also, they initially put on that air conditioning would be required. Typically, you'd end up seeing that in or around an airport, but as Planning Manager Raley mentioned, that even if you were by the Reno Tahoe International Airport and you were below a certain level in your noise contour, it wouldn't be required.
So the I don't understand how those two, is it because the pollution?
No, it's not the pollution. It's noise levels interior to the house.
Interior, okay.
Yeah, and if people have their windows open, there's ways to cool off. We get wild swings here, 40 to 50 degrees between day and nighttime temperatures. So at night, you can cool a house off very well and effectively. And with fans, it comes even more. But if you had the windows open, let's say during the middle of the night at 2 a.m. and they fly some planes over fighting a fire or something like that, yeah, it's a little noisier at those single instances, but they're not frequent.
So,
from Reno,
so initially when you proposed that there were no AC, so there's still no AC, but there's the option for homeowners to input ACs down the road.
They
It was
could
just a cost issue.
there's swamp coolers, there are ceiling fans, there's box fans, there's all sorts of ways that you can do it. And just managing the coolness in your house during the daytime, shutting all your blinds, shutting all your windows, turning off the lights really helps. So managing appropriately, and then fans when it is cooler to draw that cooler area really helps to cool a house off as well.
Well, and obviously the big point of this was to be able to keep these affordable. But again, there is the option for homeowners in the future, or future homeowners, to be able to, insert.
They can
in a-
add cooling devices on, most certainly, absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you.
Would we like to move into discussion or entertain a motion? Commissioner Becerra.
Sure, happy to entertain a motion. Let me just find it here for a sec. I'll try to make our former Commissioner Muniz proud of us by referencing the case number. In the matter of case LDC 24-00056, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the tentative map, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report. And I can make the findings.
We have a motion?
Commissioner Veltall, second.
Do it again.
Commissioner Veltall, second.
Oh, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Good luck, y'all. Thank you for doing this. All right, closing 4.2, moving on to 4.3, case number LDC 24-00057, Ortiz Residence. Looks like we'll get another presentation from, what's your name again?
Okay, good
Sorry, I
evening.
won't do it again.
Once again, Jeff Foster, Associate Planner for the record. I remembered a second time. The second case that I'm bringing you tonight, one of my colleagues earlier today was joking that this is the Jeff show tonight. So anyway, so I'm bringing you LDC 2457, which is the Ortiz residence. So this is a project on the north side of Huffaker, west of Virginia and 395, as you can see here. The site is approximately 3.62 acres. It's developed with a single-family residence that was built in somewhere approximately 1873. And it also includes several outbuildings, a garage, a milk barn, and a hay shed. The request before you tonight is an alternative equivalent compliance. I'm going to shorten that to AEC when I move forward here. Specifically for two things. One is to deviate from the required front yard setback, and two is to locate a new principal structure to the rear of an existing accessory structure. I did want to point out that the Planning Commission, this body, approved a variance in December of 2020 for the exact same requests underneath a variance instead of an alternative equivalent compliance, as AECs were not available at that point in time, okay? The building permit was approved for that project, but it was never issued and it subsequently expired. And the owner recently applied for a building permit and was flagged for needing to obtain a new entitlement, and that's why they're here before you tonight. So the structures that I mentioned earlier, the historic house, the garage, the hay shed, and the milk barn shown here in the foreground. The proposed location of the new main house there off to the left in the back, and you'll see that from a different vantage point here in a minute. I use the word historic, not officially. The structure is not officially designated as historic, but due to its age, it qualifies as historic in nature, and that's why we use the historic reference. So in terms of the key issues, we are dealing with code compliance and compatibility with the surrounding development pattern. As we zoom in here, you can see single-family residences to the north and to the east. You have another single-family residence to the south, along with agricultural land, and a single-family residence and vacant land to the west. As you can see in this area, the surrounding development pattern is generally large homes on large lots with large setbacks. It's essentially generally rural in character. The zoning district is large lot residential, 2.5 acres. And the master plan is large lot neighborhood. And here are policies that support the proposed request. So, in terms of code compliance, we have 2 code sections that we are looking at. First of all, 1804-903 A5 A1 requires the front yard setback of any new principal structure to be generally consistent with the front yard setback of existing structures on either side. And as you can see, the existing primary residence off to the left, the setback from the front property line to that structure is approximately the same as the setback from Huffaker to the structure on the parcel to the east. So it is currently in conformance with that code section. The second code section is 1804-903 A5B, which says that on lots with a principal single-family use, accessory structures are prohibited in the area between the front property line and the principal structure. So I'm going to address the second code section that I just talked about first on this slide. So the applicant proposes construction of a new single-family principal dwelling on the rear half of the site. They plan to retain and restore the existing single-family dwelling in its current location and to convert it to a detached guest quarters. Guest quarters and other detached accessory structures will be located in the front yard of the new principal dwelling. The applicant has stated that to meet code, the buildable area for the new structure that they would like to build will not suffice without first demolishing the existing single-family home, which due to its historic and intrinsic family value is undesirable. So as we move to 1804-903 A5B, approval of the AEC would facilitate maintaining the neighborhood character and consistency by preserving existing structures and strategically locating the new structure to the rear of the existing structure. And you can see the gold arrow that I put up there. That's where that new structure would be located, screened behind the existing single-family home. Since code does not allow in this zone multifamily or accessory dwelling units, we have included condition number 5 that requires the existing single-family home to be converted to a guest quarters. Guest quarters are not ADUs because they do not contain separate and independent cooking, i.e. kitchen facilities, and may not be rented, so they are not dwelling units. This same condition was included in the previously approved variance from December of 2020, and the applicant has agreed to convert the existing single-family home to an accessory dwelling, or sorry, a guest quarters, not accessory dwelling. That's what we don't want them to. So to convert it to a guest quarters, and they have also agreed to the guest quarters use-specific standards that we have in code. In terms of the compatibility with the surrounding development pattern, many of the surrounding large lot residential 2.5 acre parcels have large single-family residences and detached accessory structures similar to this project. In fact, the 2 parcels directly across the street to the south have detached accessory structures that are effectively in the front yard. And I do have a slide that I can show you that later if you'd like. Again, back to the code section that we're looking at, 1804-903 A5A1. There would be a 33-foot wide, approximately 33-foot wide buildable area in which the new primary residence could be located without demolishing the existing historic family dwelling. And that 33-foot wide buildable area is benchmarked in relation to the home to the east, as you can see here. That 33-foot wide buildable envelope would not accommodate the desired home, and requiring the existing residence to be demolished is counterintuitive, and staff feels that the strict application of the code creates a practical difficulty and undue hardship on the applicant. Approval of the AEC would allow the applicant to place their new home at the rear of the property to maintain the current appearance of the structures along the front. And conserving these historic structures align with the broader community values of heritage and cultural preservation. And I think that this is backed up by several support comments that came in previously for the variance and then also more recently for this AEC request. And I do have a slide showing where all of those folks are who support this request, if you'd like to see that as well. Here are the recommended findings for the AEC. Staff can make all the recommended findings, and here's the recommended motion. And I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Looks like we'll get a presentation from the applicant's representative.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Brooke Oswald with the EREC Group. I'm representing Tom and Carrie Ortiz tonight, the owners of the property. Just going over the context and location, Jeff did an excellent job of going over that, but I'll go through it quickly. This is 395 and Huffacre Lane as we come, and the project site. As we come in a little bit closer, I think what we can look between the two of these is really that context and character. I just want to reiterate that of this area. As you can see up against 395, we have much denser built pattern, and as we move out to that county land, we're seeing those larger lots. Those are being rebuilt with newer homes, bigger homes on those. We're also seeing almost a green belt along there because of those large setbacks, and that's really desirable context and character of that area. Additionally, we're seeing that this is in the sphere of influence, which means it's not in the city of Reno, but it is under the jurisdiction of the city of Reno. But this is a great transition area with those 2.5 acres that it's transitioning to those larger county lots too. So it's playing good with the neighbor. Project site there. As you can see, there's a number of structures on there. And I think this photo, zooming in a little bit more, you can see the context of the surrounding neighborhoods of those larger homes, and they're being pushed back in, and you're almost seeing a clustering happen, even though it's not on a tentative map or purposeful. They're moving those homes in closer to preserve that outer open space area. Going over this, once again, this was a variance that was approved in 2020. It expired, as we know, 2020 was a really interesting time for us all, and life and things going on at that point. And so unfortunately, they didn't get the extension. It expired. They do currently have a new building permit that came in. This was flagged that it was expired. Now that variance has had much harder findings, and the AEC is really a more appropriate tool and a great tool specific to this instance to use in this. And I'm glad that it's come in with some of our newer code updates. It's that deviation from the front yard setback and locating the primary structure to the rear accessory. I think Jeff did a great job of showing the code sections, how we were deviate from that, but how we actually create a better situation by doing so. Over to the left, you can see the historic structures, those being 1873, even though they're not on a register, any sort of register. Anything in the city of Reno over 50 years is considered historic and is documented in a demolition case or something like that. And these old farm buildings, this rural nature really is part of our character and our heritage here in Reno. So once again, looking at, this is a few additional slides looking at this. So now you can see the existing structures are there, and as Jeff outlined, they would most likely have to be demolished to bring in the new home. So that's bringing that large mass of that new home up in the front there. Now if we look, this would be the second, so it would be the removal of those homes and moving the home to the rear. And really, as you bring that in the front, you can see that those existing structures start to mask that larger, newer structure in the back. This also isn't showing there's a lot of mature landscape in this area too. You're seeing large trees, you have a hillside there. There's some topography that really starts to screen that, and you're not seeing a big drastic change from the street view or as you're going down Huffacre Lane. Just to go quickly over the zoning and master plan, Jeff did that. Those large lot neighborhoods really provide that opportunity to preserve the rural character of the existing neighborhoods in the city of Reno in the sphere of influence. That's straight from our master plan. Once again, those master plan policies being context sensitive, really, we're making a modification from our true code, because if we applied code, it actually kind of goes against a lot of those larger policies that we have as a city. Historic preservation, and then as I went over the natural features and the neighborhood character that is there, that this option really preserves that. With that, I'll available for questions, and then the applicants are also here too. If you have specific questions related to the historic structures or their intrinsic value to their family, please feel free to ask them. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. Appreciate it. All right, we'll go to the commissioners for disclosures. Commissioner Villanueva, please.
Commissioner Villanueva, no disclosures.
Commissioner Armstrong, no disclosures.
Commissioner Becerra read and reviewed the materials, and I'm familiar with the site or location.
Commissioner Balto, same disclosures.
Commissioner Rohrmeyer.
Same disclosures.
Commissioner Draculich, I do believe we got a comment from the NAB. Did I get that right? So one email came in last minute, and other than that, I'm familiar with the area. All right, with that said, we'll open up to public comment. Anybody online? Request to speak forms?
Do you have someone? No one online, no request to speak forms. We did receive correspondence that was forwarded to the Planning Commission and entered into the record.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody in the chambers wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and open it up to the commissioners for questions of staff or the applicant's representative. Commissioner Villanueva.
I have a question for staff. Can you go over the differences between, I think you said a guest, it was
Quarters?
guest quarters and then an ADU?
So effectively, the one difference is the presence or absence of a kitchen.
Okay.
So a guest quarters cannot have a full kitchen. You can have a microwave, you can have a hot plate, that kind of thing. You can't have a stove. That's what constitutes a kitchen or a cooking facility, and therefore would make it a full dwelling unit.
So they're in agreement to remove a kitchen in there?
They
to
are in
make
agreement to remove the kitchen to make it a guest quarters, correct?
What's a policy reason for for having it not be, for having it be a guest quarters and not what is it, ADU? ADU, yeah.
Yeah, so it's simply the fact that there's two things, right? One is that the zoning does not allow multifamily. So if
In
you
that
had
area.
full dwelling units, that would be multifamily, okay? And then the second thing is that ADUs are not allowed also. And so between the prohibition against ADUs and the prohibition against a second principal dwelling on the property under that zone, that automatically precludes having that unit or that existing residence be maintained as a full residential unit.
So we are considering having ADUs come into the picture at some point in the future. That would potentially, I don't know how that's going to play out, but that could potentially eliminate the need for them to have to remove a kitchen or an ADU. So are there thoughts of, I guess this is for the applicant, but would there be thoughts to hold off until that? I guess they can do whatever they want, but I figured, I'd hate to, it doesn't make any sense to me to have, just to remove the kitchen.
It does feel like a bit of an artificial construct to require them to do that. It does bring them into compliance with code. Again, this was a condition that came from the variance in 2020. It's the exact same condition, and they have agreed to it. Having said that, based on the timing, if they did want to hold off and wait till the code update, if ADUs end up being allowed, that is something that would grant them flexibility.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Belto.
Sorry, give me 1 second. Is there any way to put a condition or something on our approval that would be consistent with Commissioner Villanueva's concerns, that in the future, if ADUs were to be permitted, they would automatically get that, that requirement would go away?
I think, yes, you could potentially wordsmith the existing condition just to add a caveat that it would go away. The alternative is they could apply for a minor modification, at that point in time. And that's a simple, quick administrative process to remove that condition. So in either way, however you want to approach that, we can definitely work with that.
You say simple and quick. I mean, are we talking like a phone call? Or
No, I just processed one last week. I got it on Monday and it was out the door on Friday. So, I mean, a week or less to get something like that out the door.
Can we just check with the applicant? Do you care about what we're discussing, or is this?
No.
Perfect.
No offense, but no, it's our, the home's been in our Shikema for.
Oh, please. Yeah. Or I guess,
It's fine.
yeah.
Good evening. Carrie Ortiz. The home's been in our family for 5+ generations, and we really just care about maintaining the historic integrity. So, and my husband Tom and I live there now, and it's not, it's a really old home. It's quaint and cute, but no, it'll be a guest quarters. And if that did come to be where ADUs are allowed, that'd be something new to think about. But as of now, we're just looking forward to staying there until we build our new home, and then we'll remove the small oven we plugged in, and so.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Okay,
That answers
thank you.
the question.
Thank you. Commissioner Becerra? No?
Well, I was originally going to kind of bring up what Commissioner Villanueva brought up, and then Belto, and if we are going to make a condition on the condition, I would just say write it in and remove the phone call, just kind of like if ADUs did come into the picture where they're allowed, then that just kind of supersedes the condition, right? It makes the condition null and void, if you will, right? And it leaves it to the owner to make that decision if they want to remove it or not in the end. Just my thoughts there.
Okay. Commissioner Rohrmeyer, don't want to forget about you.
Yeah, I don't have a question for the applicant or staff. I do have sort of a discussion around policy, but it's in line with what the other commissioners have brought up. So I guess when we go to discussion.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, I would say that this is an interesting example of why we should have an ADU ordinance. Although I think the alternative equivalency tool is a good, thing to have. To be going through something that seems rather arbitrary when we're talking about a 3.5 acre parcel and not allowing a second dwelling that has a stove. I feel like this is an overstep. I feel like this is an overstep, and that the ADU ordinance is really designed to give property owners flexibility. Usually it's a tool for affordability. In this case, it's a tool for exclusivity. So here we're seeing both ends of the spectrum. And so this is why I strongly and emphatically believe in an ADU ordinance for the city of Reno, so that we don't have cases like this every single time a historic property comes up.
Thank you. We kind of slid into discussion. Does anybody else have any questions? And we can keep discussion going or entertain a motion.
I'm happy to make a motion.
But sure.
Oh, perfect. In the matter of case number LDC 24-00057, based upon compliance with the applicable findings, I move to approve the request for alternative equivalent compliance subject to the conditions, except that in the event accessory dwelling units are permitted, the applicant will no longer be required to modify the existing residence on their property.
We have a motion.
Commissioner Armstrong, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion on the addition to that Commissioner Belto made. Any concerns from fellow commissioners with that? Commissioner Rohrmeyer?
Nope.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Good luck with your project. Thanks for keeping that property up. All right, closing item 4.3, moving to item 5, Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Liaison Report. Who's the winner here?
I didn't attend the last Truckee Meadows planning meeting, so I don't think I would be the best person to
I was
present the
I was
liaison
also
report.
absent.
Okay.
I believe that was actually me.
Oh, well, there we go.
We had a presentation on some of the regional policy recommendations they're drafting. And really, those recommendations are some that they mentioned they're going to bring forth before this chambers, I think in September, October. Is that right, Mike? And so we will have more on that in the coming months. That was it.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you. Closing item 5. Item 6, staff announcements.
Good evening. Just a few announcements. As we mentioned at our last meeting, you all know that the Ranchera Village 7 tentative map was appealed. That hearing was postponed and will be heard by the City Council on the 31st of this month. So we'll bring you an update at your August 7th meeting on that. Additionally, the NV Energy conditional use permit for the power line corridor, that was appealed by NV Energy and Hines Ranch, which is Stonegate. That appeal will be heard by the council on August 28th. So we'll bring you updates after that as well. I think we've all noticed that Commissioner Munoz is not with us tonight. His term has expired. In speaking with the city clerk's office, they hope to have the appointment on the city council agenda sometime, either most likely on the 31st of this month for a new appointment. So we'll have a new commissioner coming on in August. Lastly, Development Services staff is going to bring back some department updates and kind of overall status updates to where we're at with code updates and things that are occurring in the department. We will wait till the new member is appointed so that we have the full board available for those, but that'll be coming up most likely in September.
And when's our next meeting?
August 7th.
Ours is the 7th. Okay, so 3 weeks out. Great. Closing item number 6, moving on to item number 7, Commissioner suggestions for future agenda items.
Commissioner Valdo, if in the future there's not going to be another commissioner, I'd like to sit closer to Commissioner Becerra.
Motion granted. Is that the right answer there?
Well, I would comment that that's actually Commissioner Rohrmeyer's seat, so you might have to.
That's a good point. That's a good point. All right. All right, closing item 7, moving to item 8, public comment. This item is for either public comment on any action item or for any general public comment. Callie and crew, any voicemails, Zooms?
No voicemails, request to speak forms, or correspondence.
All right, anybody in this empty chambers wish to speak on public comment? Seeing no humans in the crowd, we will close item number 8 and move to item number 9 for adjournment. Can I get a motion? So move. All right. All in favor? Sorry. Aye. Aye. Great. All right, have a good night, y'all.